Hey, what's up, everybody? Justin here to give another review. Here at the entrance of Gusto, where I'm going to have breakfast in a few minutes. And this time, I'm going to be reviewing the Amazon Prime series, Kamen Rider Black Sun. So, many years ago, I reviewed the OG Kamen Rider Black series. And of course, Kamen Rider Black Sun is a modern remake, and it's meant to commemorate the 50th anniversary of the first Kamen Rider series and the 35th anniversary of the original Kamen Rider Black series. So fundamentally, Kamen Rider Black Sun more or less follows the plot of the original Kamen Rider Black. So it's just mostly, of course, the main character again is Minami Kotaro. This time played by Hidetoshi, Nishijima, I believe, or yeah, I'm not really good with these kinds of names. I say like Nishimura, Nakajima, Nakanishi, Nishijima, but he was the guy in Drive My Car. But he went from Drive My Car to either Ride My Motorcycle or, spoiler alert, Live in My Bus. But in that point, if considering Japan's socioeconomic situation within the series, I wouldn't be surprised if housing was just as expensive as San Francisco's. Okay, so yes, what makes this fundamentally different is, okay, instead of being a 19-year-old, since he's being played by a 50-year-old man, Kotaro is physically 50 years old. Well, and of course, I'm not sure if this is okay to spoil, but of course, once again, his friend Nobuhiko is still Shadow Moon, and he's also still the main rival. And he still maintains his youth. And that is explained later on as the series progresses, even though Kotaro does have the choice to regain his youth. So once again, the Gorgum, they're fundamentally the main enemies. They're still this evil cult, and Kotaro as Kamen Rider Black, or Black Sun, has to stop them. And of course, the circumstances that both him and Nobuhiko were experimenting on, that's still pretty much the same. But this time, this common version of Kamen Rider Black is more political in nature. So the Kaijin, who are the monsters in the original series, are back once again, but they've been in existent society for the past 50 years, and they live as, their own separate race. They live in their own district, and they tend to be discriminated against. And one of the supporting characters, Aoi, a junior high girl, just like Greta, she speaks to the UN and talks about how Kaijin are part of our world and should not be discriminated against. And then you see these Japan equivalent to alt-right groups. These alt-right groups were alt-right before America had their alt-right groups. They're always going to districts and harassing them, telling like, hey, you're not human, you should all die and all that shit. And of course, how the Kaijin react, it's pretty much inspired by the Black Lives Movement after the unfortunate murder of George Floyd, and who he may rest in power. So you'll see a lot of Black Lives Matters movements, inspired movements in this show through the Kaijin. And of course, it does reference to other unique political events, history, such as Unit 731. If you don't know, Google them. But long story short, they were an science experiment unit that did a lot of crazy shit. What you see in the show is one thing. What they did in real life, oh man, you better get a barf bag ready. And of course, and I'm not sure if I should, it's kind of really revealed pretty early in the series, but of course, political corruption, how the government can be tied to cults. And keep in mind, this was released in November 2022, just a few weeks after the assassination of former Prime Minister Shinzo Abe. And as for why he was assassinated, apparently this guy, his mother lost his money by giving all this money to some cult, and apparently not just Abe, but a lot of people within the Liberal Democratic Party. Yeah, despite the name, it's a center-right, far-right group, has had connections with this particular group, and this guy killed Abe out because of his connections to that particular cult. And you do kind of see these kinds of weird things. And of course, this series was filmed prior to the assassination of Shinzo Abe. So it's kind of interesting to watch this series through that lens, now knowing, okay, Abe was killed because of this, and then you see this and think Kamen Rider Black's son. So yeah, it's kind of weird seeing the politics and all of this being applied in this series. And as for why they're using Black Lives Matters movements with the kaijin, keep in mind that Japan, okay, I've seen people on Twitter saying, oh, Japan is diverse and all that, mostly from white girls. But, yes, other races do exist. But keep in mind that for the past 20 years, the foreign population or immigration population has been at 2%, well, let's say in the UK, between 2000 and 2020, it went from, let's say, 2% to 10%, while Japan has stayed at 2%. Yes, Japan does have it, but it doesn't really have, let's say, the diversity of the UK, other European countries, the US, Canada, South American countries, and Australia. For the most part, the foreign population, 2%, and a majority of them are from either neighboring Asian countries such as China, South Korea, Taiwan, and the Philippines. And of course, Nisei, second generation, third generation, Japanese Brazilians as well. So, since Japan doesn't really have that same history of racism or diversity as, let's say, the U.S., I can see why they had to go in that direction. Since Japan has never really had that kind of same civil rights movement history as the U.S. Of course, I know that's been sort of like been a source of controversy to the native Japanese audience, while foreign audiences have praised that quality. And I thought that I'll admit it threw me off at first, but I understand why they did it. Since Amazon Prime is, an international company, I understand they kind of want to make it appealing to an international audience. So yes, the political lens, once you really know the history, not just the Black Lives Matters, but of course Unit 731 and the recent assassination of Abe, is like, holy shit, I mean, this is really crazy here. And the action, it's pretty brutal. It's not really just martial arts flashy. Every punch and kick is thrown is meant to really kill someone or break a bone. It's a lot more bloody, it's a lot more bone breaking, it's a lot more gritty. That's what I really like about the action. And of course, a lot of the costumes, some of the monsters, the kaijin, they're really fundamentally the same from the original. And of course, with the Kamen Rider Black costumes, Black Sun and Shadow Moon, their costumes have a more organic feel to it. Even though the costume is meant to be organic, but they really capture the intention here. And the acting is also pretty excellent in its own way, especially with Hidetoshi. You see that he's world weary. You see where he's coming from with the kaijin. He doesn't want anything to do with it. You see that he's practically been living homeless and all that other stuff for the past 50 years. So, you also understand, let's say, Nobuhiko. Nobuhiko has a much bigger role in this, since this series is much shorter than the original 50-episode length. So he does have his own goals. He has more of his own voice. He's not being manipulated like the original. He has his own goals of wanting to, let's say, the kaijin take over the world. And they do a very good job of showing his motivations and why he has them. And the Aoi character is also pretty good. Obviously, she's inspired by Greta, and you do see her play out her own role. The supporting cast is pretty solid overall. So yes, my only issues with it are nothing politically related. I might disagree with some of the politics, but I won't say disagree, but or turned off. Is like, okay, I was thrown off by it, but I get where it's coming from. But maybe this is a spoiler alert, But unfortunately, none of the original cast in the original series, like the guy who played the original Minami Shotaro, Takao Kurata, I think that was his name. Unfortunately, he has no cameos in it. So I think that's the only loss this series has. And the way that it ends, I don't think we'll be seeing a Kamen Rider Black RX Sun, but if it happens, it happens.